We've all seen them. We've all sat through them, wondering when they will end. We've all almost fallen asleep during them. I'm talking about poorly constructed PowerPoint presentations. When used correctly, a PowerPoint can add huge benefits to a presentation, adding visuals, emphasizing important information, and just in general keeping the audience's interest. However, things can also go horribly wrong in a presentation. Bad color choices, too much information, and poorly planned visuals can cause serious distractions to a presentation. That's why I'm here speaking with you today. We're here to tell you about the 5 most important things to keep in mind when designing your visuals. Number 1, start with your titles. 2, make smart color choices. 3, avoid distractions. 4, think visually as you design. And 5, edit your work. We'll now break down each of these points so every one of you can leave here able to design the perfect presentation. One of the most important things you want to begin with when you design your visual is to identify what your audience needs to see. You don't want there to be too much information crammed up onto one slide. People just start reading the screen and then stop paying attention to you, and your whole message will just get lost. The information in your visual should serve one of 3 purposes. 1, it should reinforce the structure of your speech. This will help with the fluidity of your presentation. It will include such things as having a title slide or having a preview or table of contents slide. 2, it should emphasize your main message. When it comes to a presentation, less is more. It's better to limit the important information rather than just have it listed out so that the audience can actually retain it. Or 3, it should draw attention to your supporting points. This includes adding charts or visuals that add to your presentation and aren't just a distraction. So this brings us to our first main point. Start with your titles. Titles are going to be the first thing that your audience sees when they switch to a new slide. You want simple titles that will make it clear what you're going to be discussing. Titles can be used to specify your point, allowing you to get right to knowing what you need to talk about. The audience will click with it. It'll make everything move much, much faster. It will speed up the information sharing between you and your audience because they know what you're focusing on, and you're able to clarify your message that way. A good rule of thumb is that if a slide doesn't make sense on its own, then you want to edit it a little bit. Maybe change that title, because you want all of our slides to look, if somebody looks at it and has no idea what you're doing, you want to be able to take that slide and people should know about it. It should influence your design decisions, and if it doesn't look good, take that title slide out. And now I'm going to hand it off to Murtaza to tell you a little bit about the color choices.
Alright, so when you're designing your visuals, color is one of the most important things. Color conveys a strong message, and different colors appeal to different people. So when designing your visuals, you should consider your audience, because certain audiences may have different feels to different colors. For example, the color red is has a strong relationship to marriage and weddings. And if you're trying to do a business presentation, that may give the wrong vibe, I guess. And so a strong business presentation color would be blue. It's culturally blue across many cultures, and so that's a strong one to go with. Different colors invoke different emotions and feelings. So, for example, if you're trying to have a more serious presentation, you'd want to use blue, which is a more business-oriented color, as opposed to yellow, which is a more fun, humorous, popping color. Certain color combinations can help or hinder your presentation. Color combinations may look good together, but some, such as red and green, can hurt your presentation, because there are people out there who are colorblind, and when you put a red and green presentation together, they may not even see anything, and that will prevent them from understanding anything in your presentation and from listening to anything you're saying. Another thing to avoid when creating presentation is distractions. You should stay away from flowy and cursive fonts, because as Nick said, you want people to understand your slides by themselves, and if you have flowy and cursive fonts, they may not even be able to read them. Another thing to avoid is elaborate background design, such as this picture right here. Elaborate background designs, as they may be used to create a point, like in this one, is maybe to create like a honeycomb effect or like a beehive. It also takes away from the slide because people get dizzy and nauseous from looking at it, and so that's another thing to avoid. And at the end of the day, when designing visuals, aim for simplicity, because the more simple it is, the easier it is to get your point across. Now I'm going to pass it over to Jose to talk about
whenever we design charts, we want to look at a couple. We've all designed charts before, so there's several charts out there. Time series chart would be more of a data-driven chart. More quantitative. A text chart would be more of a qualitative chart. Time series, you have several options. One would be a column chart. The second one would be a line chart, and the third one would be area charts. Most of these try to emphasize trends and forecasting or linear regression or whatever you're going to work with. Item chart would be more of a kind of categorizing, and component would be like a pie chart, correlation chart, and so on and so forth. Concept diagrams depict ideas. So some diagrams illustrate interaction, emphasize concepts, or compare concepts. Other diagrams highlight sequences. For example, if you have a chart with an arrow on it, it emphasizes a certain flow of, if the arrow's pointing up, it's a positive flow, or down, negative flow, and so on and so forth. Keep slides exceptionally simple. Sometimes less is better. Keep text to a minimum to alleviate these issues. Be concise. That's the most important thing, I believe. Maintain standalone sense by simplifying your content. Don't try to put entirely too much information in one of these charts. Switch to active voice by using strong verbs to catch the audience's attention. Limit your subpoints. Do not create subpoints and then subpoints for the subpoints. Also, use parallel structure. This includes both grammatical and conceptual parallelism. Fine-tune formatting by using AutoFit. I think we all know how to use that. Consider your use of case for titles, centering and so on. Also, too much boldface will kind of stand out. Way too much, and your points won't be kind of specified to what you're really talking about. Now, photographs. Add interest. Finding pictures. We've all logged on to Google and Googled pictures and stuff. So it's kind of difficult to pull some of those pictures out because most of them are copyrighted. So there's a couple of websites that you can go on. One is morphfile.com if you want to just find free photos. If you want to purchase them, dreamstand.com, or you can just supply them from your own smartphone. Choosing images. Same thing, just clarity is better. No, don't try to clutter the entire tile or slide. It doesn't look that appeasing to the eyes. Centering photos or altering photos, kind of like fitting the photos into the format. That way, it allows you to grab. It grabs the attention of the audience. Excuse me. And since it grabs into the audience, if you have a photo that fills the entire tile, it can be very powerful. Also, animation clarifies in complex slides. Build tiles of text. The audiences will read ahead most of the time. So use animation to focus their attention to make a current point. Building complex slides by adding animation will also assist the audience to make your point as well. And adding layers, diagrams, avoid distracting transitions. That's one of the key and most important parts of this. You don't want to create like spinning wheels or dissolving checkerboards or some silly noises and stuff. Now I will pass it on to Ted.
There you go. All right. So is to edit your efforts. You want to first start this off by verifying that the structure of your presentation is clear. Next, by enhancing the visual effects. And lastly, by proofreading and proofreading again. So first is to verify that the structure is clear. You can do this by having a repeating slide or an intro slide for the material that you're about to talk about. You can also use trackers, which is basically a miniature visual down at the bottom to correlate to the slide that you're on. Then to enhance the visual effects, they really drive home the use of color in this chapter. They say to check your use of color because too much color can be completely distracting and you can just lose your message. Next, use graphics as a pointer, such as circling something on a slide or pointing an arrow to it. You can really have using your pointer to make the audience know what you want them to observe. And then finally, proof and proof again. You want to maintain consistent phrasing. Check for correctness and consistency. By possibly using the same words on the intro slide and then go into it. You also want to document your sources. If you don't have documentation for those sources, don't use those sources.
Does anybody have any questions?
Thank you for listening to our presentation, and now here is our quiz.
Good luck.
We just talked about it on the